The spark of war the morning sun cast golden rays across New Dawn Colony on Kepler 442b, painting the settlement in warm light that made the prefabricated buildings look almost magical. 7-year-old Emma Chun skipped between the hydroponic gardens, her dark hair bouncing as she collected samples for her mother's research. The little girl hummed a tune she had learned from the colony's cultural archives. Completely unaware that this would be the last morning of peace her world would ever know, Dr. Wei Chun watched her daughter through the laboratory window, a smile creasing her weathered face. After 15 years of terraforming work on hostile worlds, Wei had learned to appreciate these quiet moments. Emma represented everything good about humanity's expansion into the stars. She was curious about everything, fearless in her exploration, and possessed an infectious optimism that kept the entire colony's spirits high during the difficult early years. Captain Sarah Chun, Emma's other mother, finished her morning security patrol and joined them for breakfast. The former Earth Defense Force Marine had traded her combat armor for civilian clothes when she married Wei, but her sharp eyes still scanned the horizon out of habit. New Dawn Colony housed 8,000 souls, and Sarah took their protection. Seriously, the family sat together at their small table, sharing stories about their morning activities. Emma babbled excitedly about the new purple flowers she had discovered growing near the eastern perimeter. She had drawn pictures of them in her notebook, complete with detailed observations that would make any xenobiologist proud. Wei listened, patiently, asking thoughtful questions that encouraged her daughter's scientific curiosity. New Dawn Colony represented humanity's greatest achievement in peaceful expansion. Unlike the military outposts that dotted the frontier, this settlement focused on research, agriculture, and sustainable development. The colonists had spent 5 years carefully adapting to their new world, studying the local ecosystem and building a community that worked in harmony with the planet's natural cycles. The colony's success had not gone unnoticed by other species. In the sector, trade relationships had developed with the peaceful Zelix merchants, who appreciated human agricultural techniques. Cultural exchanges with the artistic Morphin people had enriched both civilizations. Most importantly, New Dawn Colony had become a symbol of humanity's potential for growth without conquest. That peaceful morning shattered when the sky darkened with alien ships. Sarah's military training kicked in the moment her communicators screamed. With emergency alerts, massive vessels were dropping out of hyperspace above the planet, their angular black hulls bristling with weapons. These were not the rounded, organic shapes of friendly trade ships. These were instruments of war. The Korthic Empire had arrived. Within minutes, the alien fleet established orbital dominance and began broadcasting surrender demands in broken English. Their message was simple and brutal. All humans had 24 hours to evacuate the planet or face complete extermination. No negotiations would be accepted. No compromise was possible. Colony Administrator Janet Reynolds called an emergency meeting in the Central Plaza. 8,000 frightened colonists gathered as alien ships cast shadows overhead. Reynolds, a veteran administrator who had helped establish 6 successful colonies, had never faced a situation like this. The Korthic demands made no sense from any rational perspective. New Dawn Colony posed no military threat to anyone. Their weapons consisted of hunting rifles and construction tools. Their greatest export was agricultural research data. Yet the aliens spoke of humans as if they were dangerous predators that needed to be eliminated. Sarah took charge of organizing the colony's defense, though she knew it was hopeless. They had no warships, no military installations, and no way to fight back against orbital bombardment. The best they could do was evacuate the children and elderly to the underground emergency shelters while the adults prepared for a final stand. Alma did not understand why everyone was so frightened. She had always been told that meeting new alien species was exciting and wonderful. Her mother Wei had taught her that curiosity and friendship were humanity's greatest gifts to the galaxy. When she saw the alien landing craft touching down near the colony center, her first instinct was to welcome the visitors properly. The little girl picked a bouquet of the purple flowers she had discovered that morning, arranging them carefully in a small bundle. These were the most beautiful specimens she had found, and she wanted to share them with the aliens as a gesture of friendship. Emma had seen the recordings of first contact with other species, where gifts of flowers and art had led to lasting friendships. While the adults argued about evacuation procedures and defensive positions, Emma slipped away from the crowd. She walked toward the alien landing zone with her flowers held high, her young mind filled with dreams of interspecies friendship and cultural exchange. This was her chance to help humanity make new friends among the stars. The Korthik soldiers, who emerged from their landing craft, were nothing like the gentle traders Emma had met before. These aliens stood 8 feet tall, covered in chitinous armor that reflected no light. Their faces were hidden behind black helmets, and their movements were mechanical and precise. Everything about them radiated controlled violence. Commander Vex of the Korthik 4th Assault Legion surveyed the human settlement with professional detachment. Intelligence reports had described humans as a weak species that relied on primitive technology and emotional decision-making. The colony before him seemed to confirm those assessments. No defensive positions, no military installations, no evidence of advanced weapons. The Korthik Empire had built its power on the systematic conquest of peaceful species. They had learned that swift, overwhelming violence prevented organized resistance and saved resources in the long term. Better to terrorize a few colonies into submission than fight prolonged wars against determined opponents. Emma approached the alien perimeter with her flowers extended, calling out cheerful greetings in the 3 alien languages she had learned from her mother's research. The Korthik soldiers stared at her through their helmet visors, unsure how to interpret this unexpected approach. Their training covered combat scenarios and hostile negotiations, but no one had prepared them for a human child bearing gifts. One of the soldiers, a nervous recruit named Zex, interpreted Emma's approach as a potential threat. Perhaps the flowers contained poison or explosives. Perhaps this was some kind of human psychological warfare designed to lower their guard. His finger tightened on his plasma rifle's trigger as the little girl came closer. Emma smiled brightly and held up her bouquet. Speaking in simple words, she hoped the aliens would understand. She explained that the flowers were a welcome gift from New Dawn Colony, and that her mother would love to show them her research on local plant life. The little girl's voice carried clearly across the landing zone, full of innocent excitement and genuine curiosity. Zex made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Interpreting Emma's enthusiasm as aggressive behavior, he fired his plasma rifle at point-blank range. The energy beam struck the child in the chest, instantly vaporizing her small body and leaving only a few scattered flower petals drifting in the breeze. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Wei Chun witnessed her daughter's murder from across the plaza. Her screams of anguish cut through the morning air like broken glass, raw and primal in their intensity. She collapsed to her knees, clawing at the ground where Emma's flowers had fallen, unable to process the reality of what she had just seen. Sarah Chun's reaction was different, but equally devastating. The former meringue stared at the spot where her daughter had died, her mind cataloging every detail with military precision. The weapon used, the range, the casual attitude of the alien who had pulled the trigger. This information would be important later. When the time came for justice. Commander Vex observed the human reactions with mild interest. Emotional responses were weakness, and weakness invited destruction. These humans clearly lacked the discipline necessary for survival in a hostile galaxy. Their elimination would be a service to more worthy species. The alien commander activated his external speakers, and addressed the horrified colonists in mechanical English. "Acceptable casualties," he announced. The human approached our position in a potentially hostile manner. Defensive protocols were properly implemented. You now have 18 hours to evacuate this world. The colony's communication systems had been recording everything as part of their standard diplomatic protocols. High-resolution footage of Emma's murder, along with the alien commander's callous justification, was immediately transmitted to Earth via quantum entanglement communicators. The message would reach humanity's home system in real time, carrying news that would shake human civilization to its core. Asterisk. On Earth, the footage arrived during the morning shift at Global Communications Command. Technician Maria Santos was reviewing routine colony reports when Emma Chun's death appeared on her screen. The young woman watched in horrified fascination as a child was murdered for offering flowers to aliens, then immediately forwarded the transmission to every government and military authority in human space. Within hours, Emma's death had been seen by billions of humans across dozens of star systems. The image of a little girl approaching aliens with flowers, only to be vaporized by beings who called her murder acceptable casualties, triggered something primal in the human psyche. This was not just an attack on New Dawn Colony. This was an attack on everything humanity represented. Emergency sessions convened in every major government on Earth. Military commanders who had been enjoying peaceful careers suddenly found themselves planning for total war. Industrial centers that had been producing consumer goods began retooling for weapons manufacturing. The entire human species had been united by the murder of one innocent child. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez received his orders while commanding the Sol Defense Fleet near Jupiter. The grizzled veteran had fought in the colonial wars 20 years earlier, but nothing had prepared him for the fury in his orders. Humanity was going to war, and there would be no mercy for the aliens who had killed Emma Chun Dot as night fell on New Dawn Colony. The survivors huddled in their emergency shelters while Korthic ships patrolled overhead. They had lost everything they had built over 5 years of hard work, but more importantly, they had lost their faith in peaceful coexistence. The galaxy had shown its true face, and it was ugly beyond imagination. Sarah Chun sat with her wife in the underground shelter, both women consumed by grief that threatened to destroy their sanity. But beneath the pain, something else was growing. A cold, calculating fury that would soon manifest in ways the Korthic Empire could not imagine. The aliens had made a critical error in their assessment of human nature. They had seen peaceful colonies and diplomatic initiatives, mistaking human restraint for weakness. They had observed humanity's preference for negotiation and compromise, failing to recognize the strength that choice required. Most fatally, they had killed a human child and called it acceptable. The Korthic Empire was about to discover what happened when humanity stopped being civilized. Asterisk. The wrath of humanity. The message from New Dawn Colony reached Earth's High Command at 1447 Greenwich. Meantime, transmitted through quantum channels that carried Emma Chun's murder across 800 light-years in an instant. Fleet Admiral Marcus Rodriguez was reviewing routine patrol reports when his aide burst into the command center, face pale with shock and rage. Rodriguez had seen war before. He had commanded ships during the brutal colonial wars, witnessed the destruction of entire fleets, and made decisions that cost thousands of lives. But nothing in his military career had prepared him for watching a 7-year-old girl die for offering flowers to aliens. The footage played 3 times before he could bring himself to speak. Earth's leaders gathered in emergency session within hours. President Shun Liu of the Pacific Federation, Chancellor Maria Kozlov of the European Alliance, and Prime Minister David Okafor of the African Union sat in the same room for the first time in 5 years. Political differences that had seemed insurmountable that morning were forgotten in the face of humanity's shared grief and fury. The Korthok Empire had made their greatest mistake in assuming humanity was what they appeared to be. For 50 years, human colonies had expanded through peaceful negotiation and careful diplomacy. Earth's military had deliberately maintained a low profile, allowing potential enemies to underestimate human capabilities while secretly developing weapons that could reshape the balance of galactic power. Admiral Rodriguez activated the holographic display that would change everything. Hidden shipyards throughout the Sol system came online, revealing the true scope of humanity's military preparation. Secret bases on asteroids, construction facilities in the outer planets, and weapons platforms that had been disguised as mining. Operations suddenly displayed their real purpose. Humanity had been preparing for this day since their first contact with hostile alien species. The lesson of the colonial wars had been clear. Peace was possible only when backed by overwhelming strength. While diplomats negotiated treaties and scientists shared research, engineers and strategists had been building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. The display showed 2,847 warships ready for immediate deployment. Another 1,200 vessels could be completed within 2 weeks. Earth's industrial capacity, hidden beneath civilian manufacturing, could produce weapons and ships at a rate that would astound any alien observer. Humanity had learned to appear weak while growing strong. Rodriguez's orders were simple and devastating. Operation Emma's Justice would mobilize every available ship and soldier in human space. The Korthik Empire would not simply be defeated. It would be erased from existence. No alien who participated in Emma Chun's murder would survive to threaten another human child. The secret fleet began assembling near Pluto within 72 hours. Ships emerged from hidden bases like sharks rising from deep water, their hulls black, as space and bristling with weapons designed specifically to counter alien technology. The Earth defense ship Righteous Fury served as Rodriguez's flagship, its name chosen to honor the little girl whose death had triggered humanity's awakening. Captain Sarah Chun received an unexpected communication while organizing new Dawn colonies. Feudal defense. A priority military channel connected her directly to Admiral Rodriguez, offering her a choice that would define the rest of her life. She could evacuate with the other civilians, or she could join the fleet that was coming to avenge her daughter. Sarah's decision was immediate and absolute. She kissed her wife goodbye, promised to return when justice was done, and uploaded herself to the next transport heading for the human fleet rendezvous point. Emma's other mother would personally ensure that every alien responsible for her death faced the consequences of their actions. The Korthek Empire remained oblivious to the storm gathering in human space. Commander Thex continued his methodical bombardment of New Dawn colonies' outer settlements, following standard Imperial protocol for planetary pacification. Intelligence reports still classified humans as technologically inferior and militarily insignificant. The destruction of one farming colony hardly seemed worth additional analysis. That complacency shattered when long-range sensors detected incoming ships at the edge of the system. The initial readings seemed impossible, over 2,000 vessels approaching at velocities that exceeded known human capabilities. Thex ordered his forces to battle stations while requesting immediate reinforcement from Sector Command. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Ships arranged in attack patterns that demonstrated tactical sophistication far beyond Korthik expectations. Admiral Rodriguez stood on his flagship's bridge, watching enemy positions resolve on the tactical display. 43 Korthik vessels. Against humanity's assembled might, the aliens were outnumbered 60-1. Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the enemy fleet, his voice carrying across space with the authority of an entire species behind it. Korthik forces. This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have murdered an innocent human child and threatened peaceful colonists. Surrender immediately, and you will be given trials before execution. Resist, and you will simply die. Commander Vex responded with typical Korthic arrogance. Human vessels, you are outclassed and outgunned. Our technology is superior to your primitive weapons. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. The alien commander still believed his forces held some advantage, even against overwhelming numbers. The battle began with humanity's opening salvo, a coordinated strike that demonstrated why Earth's engineers had spent 50 years studying alien weaknesses. Tungsten kinetic rounds, accelerated to 97% of light speed, punched through Korthic energy shields as if they were paper. Plasma torpedoes designed to disrupt alien hull materials turned enemy armor into deadly shrapnel. 6 Korthic ships died in the first 30 seconds of combat. The aliens' return fire consisted of traditional plasma bolts and particle beams. Weapons that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries. They struck human ships and accomplished nothing. Earth's defensive technology had been specifically designed to counter these exact weapons, using adaptive armor and deflection fields that rendered conventional alien firepower useless. Commander Vex watched his fleet die with growing horror. Human weapons were not primitive at all. They were specifically engineered to kill Korthic vessels with ruthless efficiency. Every shot found its target. Every explosion eliminated another piece of his command. This was not a battle. It was an execution. The human fleet moved through Korthic positions like wolves through sheep. Individual ships that had taken years to build and train were destroyed in seconds by enemies who seemed to anticipate every defensive maneuver. Within 10 minutes, only Vex's flagship remained operational, surrounded by debris that had once been the pride of the Korthic 4th Assault Legion. Sarah Shun led the boarding party that cut through the alien flagship's hull. Her Terran Reaper armor was painted with Emma's picture, along with the words, "Remember the child," in 12 different languages. The former Marine moved through enemy corridors with deadly precision, her weapon targeting any alien who had participated in her daughter's murder. The surviving Korthic crew fought desperately, but their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not close-quarters battle against human special forces. Sarah's team secured the flagship's bridge in less than 20 minutes, taking Commander Vex prisoner while eliminating his staff. Vex found himself face-to-face with Emma's mother, his black blood leaking from multiple wounds while human soldiers secured his bridge. The alien commander finally understood the magnitude of his species' error. These were not the weak farmers his intelligence reports had described. These were apex predators who had been pretending to be prey. Sarah removed her helmet and stared into the alien's compound eyes. "You killed my daughter," she said quietly. "You murdered a 7-year-old girl who wanted to give you flowers. Do you understand what you've done?" Vex struggled to comprehend how thoroughly his understanding of humanity had been wrong. The pain from his wounds was nothing compared to the realization that his entire species had been deceived. Humans were not peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they chose to be, and that choice could be revoked. The systematic destruction of Korthic forces in the New Dawn system took less than 4 hours. Admiral Rodriguez's fleet suffered 0 casualties while eliminating every alien vessel in the area. The survivors were taken prisoner and prepared for transport to Earth, where they would face trial for crimes against humanity. But Operation Emma's Justice was far from over. Intelligence gathered from captured Korthic computers revealed the locations of 17 other systems under Imperial control. Each one contained slave labor camps, military installations, and evidence of systematic genocide against species that had dared to resist Korthic expansion. Rodriguez addressed his fleet as repair. Crews worked to restore minor damage from the brief engagement. "We came here to avenge one murdered child," he announced. "But we have discovered that Emma Chun was not the first innocent to die at alien hands. Every species enslaved by the Korthik Empire deserves liberation. Every victim of their cruelty deserves justice." The human fleet divided into task forces and began the systematic liberation of Korthik space. Each system fell within days, alien defenders overwhelmed by weapons they had never imagined possible. Freed slave populations joined the human cause, providing intelligence and support for continued operations. Earth's industrial machine shifted into full war production. Shipyards that had operated in secret for decades now worked openly, producing vessels faster than any alien species thought possible. The hidden strength of humanity was finally revealed, and the galaxy watched in awe as a previously unknown. Military power reshaped the balance of interstellar politics. News of humanities. Victories spread throughout civilized space. Species that had suffered under Korthik oppression began to hope for freedom. Others, who had dismissed humans as insignificant, suddenly realized they had been watching sleeping giants awaken. The war reached its climax at Korthik Prime, the Empire's capital world. Admiral Rodriguez's expanded fleet, now numbering over 4,000 ships and including vessels from a dozen liberated species, surrounded the planet where Emma's murderers had originated. The system's defenses were formidable, but they had been designed to fight conventional enemies. Humanity was anything but conventional. The bombardment of Korthik Prime lasted exactly 7 minutes and 33 seconds, 1 minute for each year of Emma Chun's life. When the fires finally died, the planet's military infrastructure had been completely destroyed, along with every government installation and weapons facility. Civilian populations were spared, but the Korthik Empire ceased to exist as a political entity. Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the righteous, fury as the last Korthik stronghold surrendered. She held a small holographic image of Emma, the same picture that now appeared on the hull of every human warship. Her daughter's murder had triggered humanity's emergence as a galactic superpower, transforming the political landscape of an entire sector. The memorial service for Emma Chun was broadcast throughout human space and beyond. Representatives from dozens of liberated species attended, paying their respects to the child whose death had freed them from Korthik oppression. Her grave on New Dawn Colony became a pilgrimage site for those seeking to understand how one innocent life could change the fate of billions. Admiral Rodriguez delivered the final report to Earth's High Command 6 months after Emma's death. The Korthik Empire was finished, its territories divided among the species it had once enslaved. Humanity's true military strength was now known throughout the galaxy, earning both respect and fear from potential enemies. But perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about human nature. They were a species that valued peace above all else, but they would wage total war to protect their children. Any alien civilization that threatened human innocence would face the same fate as the Moliale. Korthik Empire. Emma Chun's flowers had been meant as a gift of friendship. Instead, they became the symbol of humanity's transition from hopeful explorers to galactic guardians. The little girl's curiosity and kindness lived on in every human colony, every diplomatic mission, and every act of interspecies cooperation. But her memory also served as a warning to those who would mistake human compassion for weakness. Galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with predators who preyed upon the innocent. Humanity had proven they would not tolerate such behavior, regardless of the cost. The age of human expansion had begun, built upon the foundation of one child's sacrifice and her species' unwavering determination to ensure it never happened again. Asterisk.